we've already looked at the first 8 sons that reveal spiritually the process of coming into maturation. And now there's an account of Reuben and the Mandrakes before we come to the last 4 sons that show us what God has reserved for the church of the end times. So I believe that Reuben and the Mandrakes is like a transition from what has been available for Christians of all ages and what is for Christians only in the end times, that is more mystical and supernatural in nature. The mandrakes were a plant that did have mystical powers, and so that's one thing that makes me think that. And then the fact that he found them during the wheat harvest made me think of the end of the age. Let's read Genesis 30, verse 14. And Reuben went in the days of the wheat harvest, and found mandrakes in the field, and brought them unto his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, Give me, I pray thee, of thy son's mandrakes. Well, both women wanted them, I believe, because of their aphrodisiac qualities. Now Leah didn't want to give them to Rachel, but Rachel bargained with her that if Leah would give her the mandrakes, then she would see to it that Jacob slept with Leah that night. So that's what they did. And Jacob went in unto Leah, and she did conceive the next son. But the fact that he went out into the field at the time of the wheat harvest reminded me of the end times. I was thinking particularly of Matthew 13 and the parable that begins in verse 24. The kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man which sowed good seed in his field. And if you'll remember the story, while the men were sleeping, the enemy came and sowed tares in among the wheat. And so the servants went to the owner of the field and asked if he wanted them to pull up the tares. And he said, No, not now. Let them grow together until time of the harvest, because if you pull the tares up now, you're likely to pull up the good wheat with them. So the disciples didn't understand this parable. When they were alone with Jesus, they asked him to explain it. And here's what he said. He that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world. The good seed are the children of the kingdom, but the tares are the children of the wicked one. The enemy that sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the world, and the reapers are the angels. As therefore the tares are gathered and burned in the fire, so shall it be in the end of this world. The Son of Man shall send forth his angels, and they shall gather out of his kingdom all things that offend, and them which do iniquity, and shall cast them into a furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Then shall the righteous shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Who hath ears to hear, let him hear. And I believe this parable is speaking of the time that we are even now entering into. And so this story I see as being like an interlude, taking us from that which was available for Christians of all ages into what is available only for those of the end times. In the next slide, we'll look at more of these mystical powers that the mandrakes seem to have. There are several properties about the mandrakes that make me think of the end times. One is it was a drug, and it caused hallucinations. We are the drug culture. Many people are on prescription drugs. It's hard to find anybody who's middle-aged that's not on some kind of prescription drug. And then there are all those people who are on illegal drugs. And a lot of these drugs are mind-altering. So this very much makes me think of drugs and the end times. Also, a great threat that we live with is the possibility of chemical warfare. Well, in ancient times, the mandrake was used in chemical warfare. I read an account about the city of Carthage. When Rome was out conquering the world, the people in the city of Carthage got word that the Romans were coming to them and that they were going to drive them out. So what they did was they all fled the city, but they left behind many bottles of wine laced with mangora from the mandrake plant. Well, the Romans came into their city, and there wasn't anybody there, but there was all this wine everywhere. And so they just sat around drinking the wine and found themselves totally helpless in that they were hallucinating and falling asleep and drunk, and they were just incapable of defending themselves. So the people of Carthage, when they knew that the Romans had had time to drink the wine and for it to take an effect, they came in and killed the Romans and saved their city. So there's an example of the mandrake being used in ancient times for chemical warfare. It was used as an anesthesia so that a person would be asleep during surgery and not feel the pain of surgery, which is, I would have thought that was something of modern times, but apparently not. They had this thousands of years ago. Also, the mandrake was used in magic rituals. The plant is configured such that it has thick roots that go off in many different directions. And the leader of the ritual would take these roots and do things to them to make them resemble the human form. Like if there are too many roots, they would cut some off or tie a string around some of them to give them the shape they wanted so that it looked like a person with a head and a body and 2 arms and 2 legs. And then they would use these in their magic ritual. I don't know what they did with them. I don't know if it was like a voodoo doll or what. I couldn't really find that information. But many people may not realize this, but there's a lot of magic and Satanism going on in the world today. A lot of it going on right here in the United States of America. Many people are involved in this. So that's another thing that I thought tied it in with the end times. And then the fact that it was an aphrodisiac, and our society has such a fetish, what's the word I'm looking for here? Obsession. Our society is just obsessed about sex. It's in all the advertisements and the billboards and all of the movies, and it's just so much an obsession with sex. So all of these qualities about the mandrakes really made me think of the end times. And a lot of this is mystical in nature, and the next 4 sons we're going to find are much more mystical and supernatural. And so I believe this is just an interlude leading us from the first 8 sons into the next 4 sons and more about the end